kicks off tonight or yesterday, but Farm Fair's running too, and it's just a reminder that though one part of our economy and the largest part of our economy is struggling, there are other parts of our economy that are just as important to creating jobs and have really exciting growth potential. So what we can continue to do around food and around agriculture and around food processing and around export, taking advantage of things like our direct air link to China, trying to deal with trade barriers for the import of things like frozen beef. So the Australians can send fresh beef and we can only send frozen beef to China. I don't know what the problem is with our beef, but I think it's good. So if we get things like that sorted out, we do have other sectors that are going to grow, but they all need and depend on infrastructure. And they're going to depend on smart infrastructure, they're going to depend on infrastructure that serves and enables human success, and ultimately all of that enables not only the human capital to be deployed, but also business capital and trade and logistics to be successful. And that's where everything we're talking about, from shelters to things like the Yellowhead, to mass transit, to social housing, are critical to the success of our economy. And so I'm grateful to be included to give a couple of reflections. Simon went on his own detour and has now led me to want to go on a detour about autonomous vehicles with you, but I'll keep that part really short. The high-level point I want to make, just to kick things off, is gratitude to the federal government for recognizing that cities are the drivers of the economy of the future in this country. And we can take the money, as has traditionally been done for 149 years, and try to spread it out, try to keep everybody happy. Or we can look at something like in the transit file, allocating the money for transit construction based on ridership. Now, Edmonton's not going to get as much money per capita as Toronto out of that formula. And the old way of doing things would be for the mayors of all the mid-sized cities to say, this isn't fair, why is Toronto getting all of the help? Well, we're not building subways. We can't afford subways. But Toronto is at the stage in its development, and so is Vancouver, by the way. And Montreal is there as well, where in that class you need to dig under or build over, which is 3 to 10 times more expensive. So people ask me all the time, well, why can't you just deconflict the LRT with traffic everywhere? Just build a SkyTrain like Vancouver. It's not that much more expensive. So it's 3 times more expensive. Getting to Millwoods would cost $4 or $5 billion if we did it then. And you would turn around and say, that's too expensive, we shouldn't build it. And you'd be right. So the key for us is to take this new federal infrastructure dollars, which are more certain into the future and more significant than we've ever seen before, and at our scale, with what we get, with the healthy ridership that we have, make the right investments as we build LRT to separate it from traffic at those key intersections. So for example, when we go west, we should probably get over or under 149th Street. And we definitely had already planned to go over 170th Street. We should probably stay up above 178th too, and keep goods and tourists and labor and everyday Edmontonians moving, whether they're on the train or whether they're in their cars. And that would not be possible. That simply was not possible historically without sustained, predictable, significant funding from all orders of government. And I can tell you, on behalf of the big city mayors of Canada, who represent more than half the population of the country and 64% of the GDP of this country, that now we can get it done. Now we can actually build the kind of infrastructure that cities in Asia have been out-hustling us on, and even American cities, because they've had access to federal funding for years to build either highways or transit. Many of them, and the cities that are most successful there, have built that transit infrastructure. And we now finally have a partner in the federal government that is prepared to work with cities. And now the question will be for many provinces, which are struggling, can they keep up? So we're going to need your urging for us all to see the wisdom of continuing to make that investment as three-way partners with all orders of government to build that infrastructure. Because as it relates to things like autonomous vehicles, we know that's going to be massively disruptive. And I get the question a lot, and I'm sure some of you have it. Well, once we have all these driverless cars, we're not going to need, we're not going to need LRT and all that expensive infrastructure, right? Well, unless I build a 12-lane road for all the autonomous vehicles, as the city grows, you're still going to need aggregators. You're still going to need this sort of big pipeline for talents to move in and out of your increasingly busy, increasingly congested activity nodes in the hearts of your city. And we have many in all the different town centers, from the university to downtown to what Northlands can grow into over time as a center for food and and agriculture, and tourism, and trade, and amateur sports. We have all of these different parts, and to connect all those together, you'll need those pipelines, those people movers, that mass transit. We'll still need that. Our bus system will absolutely profoundly change. I'm convinced of that now more than ever for all kinds of reasons I won't bore you with. But we are out front on this, and the city of Edmonton has historically been really bad at tooting our horn, and we're trying to, because it's not our instinct. It's not our instinct. We're getting better at it. And I just want to tell you one thing, that the city's initiative along with EDC and the community around Make Something Edmonton just won first place in an international award recognizing city brand and placemaking initiatives. And so the world is looking at what we've been doing here, and we should be very, very proud of that. Because we have a great story. But more than a tagline, Make Something Edmonton, and more than a mural on the side of the building, take a risk, is the most Edmonton thing you can do. More than that, it is the ethos of this place, that we are open and that we are collaborative. And nothing speaks to that more than two examples I want to give you about what we're doing with infrastructure. One Simon touched on, which is this active Aurora work, which is sort of an odd code name for smart transportation networks that we're working with the feds, the province, the University of Alberta, and also the University of British Columbia. And it's because our city is committed as a local government to being open by default, to being as collaborative as possible when an opportunity like this comes along. That's part of why we were recently recognized by the Public Sector Digest among 34 Canada's largest cities as the first among Canadian cities when it came to our approach to open data and open government. So you should be proud of that as well. And in addition to that, I was just at an event in Miami with, just before the election, with mayors from across the United States and around the world, where Edmonton was held up next to Seattle as one of the best in the world, according to Bloomberg's What Works Cities Open Government Initiative. So we are getting this kind of recognition. People are talking about us because we just do this for breakfast. It's who we are. That's what the brand is. We just struggle to tell our story, and that's changing because people are starting to talk about our story and ask, how can we be more like you? Which is not traditionally how Edmonton was positioned. But our opportunity to work with the federal government around the Smart Cities Initiative will have tangible results. It's not just science fiction. How are we going to make cars driverless a little bit faster and deal with winter climates here? It's something tangible like the system that we use right now in order to allow a fire truck to override an intersection. So sometimes you'll see a light that stays red for a really long time. And you're going, why is this light staying red for so long? There's no LRT anywhere in sight. And you'll see eventually you'll hear a siren, and eventually you'll see a fire truck go by, and you'll go, oh, okay. So there's an override system. Putting one of those in costs millions and millions and millions of dollars. This kind of disruptive technology, when it comes to traffic system controllers, will allow a chip that will next year become mandatory to be included in every vehicle, not just fire trucks. Every vehicle sold in North America will have one of these locator chips. Don't worry, they're not going to track your every movement, or maybe they will, I don't care, because it's going to save us. It's going to save us millions and millions of dollars on putting systems like that. And we can go even further. We can say if we have an ambulance and we have a police cruiser, then you can intelligently determine which light you want to change to prefer the vehicle. Or if you have a bus that's running early and a bus that's running late, you can have the traffic light give a few extra seconds of preference to help the late bus make up a few minutes. That's what intelligent transportation looks like. What does it mean on the ground? It means less accidents, less people running lights. It means less conflict with emergency vehicles. That's going to save lives, and it's going to be way cheaper than the legacy systems that we traditionally put in. So that's just one example of what smart infrastructure, how that's going to change our transportation system and save money and improve outcomes. The other one I want to talk to you a little bit about is what we can do around social infrastructure, what we can do particularly with housing. And one of the key innovations that we're working on out of the End Poverty Edmonton initiative is to create a community development corporation, a social enterprise approach to taking surplus city lands or partner lands and leveraging them for their real estate potential. Not 100% for the bottom line, because there are public goods involved, but to build mixed-use projects in neighborhoods that the market is not able to generate an economic return out of, but where the need is greatest for small base for mom and pop businesses to get started, and some incubation support to bring them along, where there's a need for housing above with lots of extra bedrooms because immigrant families and indigenous families sometimes have 4, 5, or 6 kids, and half the market's just not building that housing. But there is an economic return to be made, a modest return to be made there. The community foundation, Edmonton Community Foundation, is one of our key partners and wants to be the bank for this and make a modest return both to their endowment but also to the community. That's the mandate. And so we have some great opportunities to think about how projects like that, simple real estate in neighborhoods, that's not quite economic today for the market to do, could leverage funding for childcare space, could leverage funding for cultural space, could leverage funding for senior space to be integrated into the main floor, could leverage the new funding for affordable housing that's coming from Ottawa to actually construct some of the affordable units above. And then maybe if there's a market component, that's where the infrastructure bank comes in and we start to leverage. And I think it's in the DNA of Edmontonians as collaborators, as passionate social enterprise people, to be creative with some of the opportunities that this federal government is creating for us, and that our community absolutely has the capacity to take advantage of. So that's just a taste. They could go on for hours because I actually love infrastructure. It also right there.
Minister Sohi, we've heard a wealth of ideas here this morning. Did you want to pose a question or give any